Warner Brothers, you want to have me over for a glass of wine to discuss your next release? Well, you should know, I just came from Universal Studios and I never drink wine. Hello? Never mind then. Dracula never drinks wine, so why should I? Welcome back for another discussion of spooky and scary Halloween films. I thought today we'd do something a little bit different. And let's look at one particular installment of a series. In 2023, Warner Brothers released their jumbo Blu-ray packs, 25 film collections, each one sort of focusing on a different aspect of the Warner Brothers filmography. Each set showcasing different things, including different bonus features. In one of those particular volumes, in fact the fourth and final one, focused on thrillers, sci-fi, and horror. I thought, what better to make an October video than to focus on thrillers, sci-fi, and horror. So we'll unbox and deep dive into that a little bit later, but I thought, well, let's get the previous three volumes out of the way first. Volume 1, here in gold, is their award winners set. The Volume 1 set has all, or at least most of the Best Picture winners that Warner Brothers has the right to. We see things like Grand Hotel, Mutiny on the Bounty, Mrs. Miniver, Casablanca, Ben-Hur, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, The Departed, Argo, all of which are the Best Picture winners that they have. I think there are some that they own that they didn't include here, like the Broadway Melody. I think they even own My Fair Lady as well. But this is the set that if you wanted the prestigious Oscar-winning films, it's probably the one you would go to. There are some later movies too, like Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm not super familiar with that one, but they seem to have done well at the Oscars, or at least achieved that level of critical acclamation that they kind of need to be recognized as award winners, even if they weren't Best Pictures. Volume 2, here in a beautiful blue, comedies, dramas, and musicals. So this is kind of a bizarre set. We get everything from The Wizard of Oz and Citizen Kane to The Goonies and Dumb and Dumber, all the way to Elf and The Hangover. So definitely an eclectic set here. There's not really much of a rhyme or reason. They might have been better off to maybe mix some of the award winners in with the dramas and have the comedies and musicals kind of take their own set. I mean, yeah, a film can be a musical comedy and still critically acclaimed. Singing in the Rain is included here, for example, and that's very much a successful musical comedy, but definitely an eclectic one. I'm not sure who this blue box set was aimed at. Excuse me. In Volume 3, which I could have talked about today, but kind of opted not to, fantasy, action, and adventure. So this is the set that has a lot of the superhero films in it. I'm not an expert on superhero movies, never been a comic book guy or anything like that, so I don't know too much about all these. I mean, I like Batman, and a lot of the Batman movies are in here. We also see Aquaman and Joker and Justice League and a million other things too. We get Harry Potter films and Harry Potter adjacent films in this set. The Never-Ending Stories in here. A fun set if you like, you know, fantasy adventures, that sort of thing. Kind of larger-than-life stuff. Not really my cup of tea, but I can have a good time with a good superhero movie. I love X-Men, among others, so good stuff. So these box sets are big. I got them all when they were on sale on Amazon, but there's one in particular I thought would make a good October video, and that's Volume 4. So let's dig in deep and see what all is in this Volume 4 box set, shall we? Please comment some of your favorite Warner Brothers films below, and let's get rolling. And that brings us to the subject of today's video. Here in a very smart jet black comes 100 Years of Warner Brothers 25 Film Collection Volume 4, Thrillers, Sci-Fi, and Horror. If you were looking for a few things to watch for the Halloween season, this might very well be the place to look. Certainly the best of the 4 sets for that purpose. Not everything in here is a horror film, of course. We have thrillers and action films and stories of many different kinds. But in terms of looking for Warner Brothers horror, this would be the place to go. So, just like with the rest, we have the cardboard stuck on there. You can pull it off. See the actual set itself. Another collage on the back for you. So you lay it down and you open it up to take a peek inside. So that's really cool the way the Warner Brothers logo hides the flap that opens up. Interesting stuff. So let's actually dig deep into the contents of the set. I'll actually start with the bonus item first. Each set comes with 2 pins. These are the 2 that come with the horror movie collection, or volume 4 I should say, because they're not all horror films of course, but nice Warner TV logo there with the white dots, pretty cool. So laying in the little box here, you can lift it out. The discs are in this book, and we'll actually again kind of go backwards. Let's look at the booklet that comes underneath. And then the pins are at the very, very bottom of the box. So nice booklet, not super thick, but complete with pictures, both behind the scenes as well as stills and photos from the movies themselves. Very, very nice. Each movie gets just kind of a short blurb. Nothing too in-depth there. Special thanks at the end, Warner Brothers 100th logo. You get, of course, a digital movie flyer there. Download the material to your device or whatever. Let's look at the actual movies themselves, shall we? Just like I mentioned before, the discs come packed in, actually if you look at the top, inside the pages of the book. They're very difficult to get out. Such a tight fit. I was worried I was going to scuff them up pulling them out. Now they're in a better place, easier to access place. So, not a big fan of the book packaging for these sets. But it does look nice, I will say. So we start off, table of contents, Warner Brothers 100th logo. It wasn't the airplanes, it was Beauty Killed the Beast. I have a whole huge video on King Kong and its cousins, as I put it. Movies are related to King Kong. A lot of fun. First movie I ever saw it on the big screen. Great stuff. Here we have the Maltese Falcon, based on the book, of course. Dashiell Hammett. Filmed a couple times before. The 1931 version is really good. It doesn't get enough love in my eyes, but the 1941 version with Bogart is absolutely iconic. The stuff that dreams are made of. Turn the page. These are very heavy pages, cardboard pages too, as they are meant to hold the discs, of course. You can see there we have Children of the Damned and 2001 Space Odyssey. Children of the Damned, never been a big favorite of mine. We have talked about on this channel before the sequel to one of my favorite 1960s sci-fi films, Village of the Damned. I'll have to rewatch it now that I have it on Blu-ray. Kind of see what the story is with that. 2001 A Space Odyssey, of course, is iconic. Here's my copy of the book, which is to tie in with the release of the film back in 1968. Love 2001 A Space Odyssey. One of the most serious sci-fi films ever made. So glad to have it on Blu-ray too. I think I was about due to upgrade my Stanley Kubrick DVD collection. These are the same ones I've had since I was in high school. So it was about time to, you know, make them a little more presentable on a modern TV. So really happy to have that. And speaking of Kubrick, the next page you see A Clockwork Orange, based on a novel by Anthony Burgess. My mother was furious with me. You know, I bought this set when I was like 15 or 16. She was absolutely livid that I had bought Clockwork Orange. How can you watch that movie? It's horrible. Maybe my hat gives me an Alex DeLarge look. I bought it to look like Laurel and Hardy or John Steed. Was not expecting to look like Alex DeLarge. But anyway, great book and great film too. Not for everybody. A little too, you know, violent, we'll put it that way. That's putting it very mildly. But definitely worth seeing. I know there are kids that really like it, which does make me a little nervous, but hopefully they took something of value out of it, like Not to Be an Ultra-Violent Criminal. And speaking of books, the adaptation of William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. The Exorcist is a great book and a great movie. Again, one of those not everybody can watch. The Exorcist has a few scenes involving projectile vomiting and such that definite turn off for many viewers, but still, it is a great movie overall. One of those non-horror titles, All the President's Men, story of exposing the Watergate scandal. Very good stuff, kind of from that mid-70s point of looking at suspicious government conspiracies and cover-ups, you know, think of the parallax view, things like that. Another Kubrick for you, The Shining, based on the book by Stephen King. Love The Shining, always have. My second favorite Kubrick movie, and still has a very big fan following today. I know if you're a Stephen King purist and prefer the book, you probably won't get much out of this version of the movie, but I always thought it was great stuff. We've got Blade Runner. This is Blade Runner, the final cut. Somewhere here I have my 2-disc DVD version of that same edit. So many different versions of Blade Runner. You and I could each watch Blade Runner and see a different edit and have a completely different takeaway from it. So, interesting stuff in that regard. I know that's why some people don't really like to review Blade Runner because, again, with so many different versions and edits and stuff, it's kind of hard to say what you're actually covering, and someone else might find your review completely irrelevant. Doesn't make any sense to them because they saw a different version. But at the end of the day, I'm glad we have it here, and I think the final cut is kind of the main one from what I gather. I don't know. I'm not a Blade Runner expert. If someone is, they can comment below with what the, you know, Ridley Scott's definitive version of Blade Runner is. Nightmare on Elm Street, we got Freddy Krueger here. You know, I like Nightmare on Elm Street, not one of my favorites, mostly due to the ending. I don't know, I get they wanted to make more sequels, of course, but Robert Englund absolutely steals that movie. And we see Johnny Depp get eaten by his bed, so that's pretty impressive too, I guess. Full Metal Jacket. Another one of those Kubrick movies. We got a lot of those in here. What can I say about Full Metal Jacket that hasn't been said already? Great stuff, even just to see Arlie Ermy screaming at everybody, "You will not laugh, you will not cry. First and last word out of your mouth will be sir," and so on. Good stuff there. Followed by Goodfellas. What, do I amuse you? Am I a clown? Something like that. Goodfellas, again, not horror related in any way. Great soundtrack. Very underrated Martin Scorsese movie, I think. I feel like Goodfellas is kind of diminished in popularity over time, but definitely still worth watching. A movie I actually don't like very much, Natural Born Killers. Never did much for me. I like Oliver Stone as a director, and this movie has a good cast, including Rodney Dangerfield in a very bizarre role, but it's not my type of movie. Never did much for me. This is a Blu-ray I don't think I'll be visiting too often. Shawshank Redemption, also from 1994. Great stuff. I've been to where they filmed that, the Mansfield Reformatory there. Very cool. There was exhibits with some of the props and everything. Saw that on the big screen too. I took my dad. Interview with a Vampire. I've actually never seen it in its entirety, so this is one I'm waiting to watch on this set. Great cast. Going for some of the foppish vampire vibes, I guess. And here we have, of course, 7. What's in the box? What's in the box? You know what's in the box. 7. Also one that not everybody is going to be able to get behind. A little too gross for some people, but definitely worth watching. The Matrix. I was never a huge fan of The Matrix. I like it, but I don't know, it's a little too weird for me. But still, culturally, it's so iconic, can't help but like it. Another Stephen King adaptation, The Green Mile. Very, very good stuff. Mr. Jingles the Mouse. I have the 2 VHS set, and now it's nice to have it on Blu-ray. So, great stuff. Inception. Christopher Nolan, I saw that back in 2010 when it was new in my college's movie theater. Never been my favorite of his films. I don't know, it's a little too pretentious for me, but still, it's got cool effects, and it is worth watching. The Conjuring I've never seen. I don't really know much about that one, to be honest, so that's interesting, something I can dig into. Gravity, that's a good movie. I actually had bought the Blu-ray of this before as part of Warner's Iconic Moments series. These cool sort of semi-minimalist covers, title, one image, and one quote. I was really impressed with Gravity, especially George Clooney's performance. Thought he was really good in that. Nice to have it here. Another one I'm not super familiar with is Her. So if you know anything about Her, you can comment it below. I don't know very much about that one. Last page. Annabelle. This has been in the news lately, people claiming that the doll prop is cursed, or it's somehow cursed dolls they have in their home, and I don't know about any of that stuff. But I'll be curious to watch that. The remake of It. Tim Curry will always be Pennywise the Clown to me, But I'm glad we have the remake here, and also the remake of Dune. I love the 1980s Dune, especially the really funky soundtrack, which I think is by Toto, if I'm not mistaken. But I love the 80s one, you know, Baron Vladimir Harkonnen, encompassing his doom, all that kind of stuff. I will kill him! All those quotes that Mystery Science Theater and others run away with. So it's nice to have the remake there. Timothée Chalamet is good in anything. So, pins. Book with photos. Oops, if it wants to come out of the box. And the book that would usually hold the discs. Fun set. Got a lot of interesting titles for autumn, should you be looking for some. Join me next week as we talk about Lon Chaney. Please comment some of your favorite horror titles, both from Warner Brothers and other places below. And I hope to see you next time, my friends. So long.